3 years ago, I was writing a jukebox musical of a giant star we've all heard of. I set the first table reading with an all-star cast for Broadway producers on Friday the 13th of March 2020, less than 12 hours before Broadway shut down for the pandemic. Then it turns out that iconic music I was going to use, not available. So a little over a year ago, I decided, to hell with it, I'll write my own music. The show is called The Road Home. And this is The Road to the Road Home. Hi there, my name is Keith Varney, and I'm a musical theater writer, and I have been since about 2002 when I moved to New York City. And what this video series is attempting to do, honestly, is to fulfill a New Year's resolution of mine, and that is to start putting out my work a little bit more, putting it up online and seeing if anybody cares or chooses to pay attention, which is totally fine. So if you're watching, thank you. I really, really appreciate it. So as I mentioned in the intro, I'm working on a new show called The Road Home. And it used to be a jukebox musical. It sort of fell through. And so on the advice of some amazing people, advised me, hey, write your own score. So I did. And so what I'm going to do, sort of video by video, is start showing some of the songs that I'm working on. Now, I should definitely say, this is all work in progress, right? This is not the final version of anything. These are all demos that I've done at home. All of the singing on the demo is just me because I'm free. So just, grain of salt with everything I'm going to show you here. But I wanted to sort of show not only what I'm working on, but how I'm working on it, and show you a little bit behind the scenes from a technical standpoint, how I'm doing it in Pro Tools, how I'm arranging it, how I'm creating these demos here in the basement, because I don't know if you're going to find it interesting, but I sure do. So certainly, if you've watched this far, you're going to be curious, what's the song I'm working on? It's a song called Crossroad, and I'm going to be talking through it and breaking it apart into a bunch of little pieces. But if you want to just hear the whole song, hear the whole demo, it'll be right there. And you can also find a link to it in the description below. And if you're curious, you want to see more of these videos as they come up, you can give a like and a subscribe, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. So let's talk about the song Crossroad. So just a quick little background, The Road Home takes place in North Carolina in 1980. And it is about a musician who is coming home to his hometown that he has a complicated relationship with, and meeting up with his childhood best friend, Carrie Carson, who at the beginning of the show is deciding to run for Congress in rural North Carolina in 1980, and is attempting to become the first woman and the first black woman ever to represent her district. So when she's at the point of deciding whether or not to do this, she understands immediately that this is an impossible task. This is no one expects her to succeed. There's a million different obstacles in her way, but she decides to do it anyway, and this is the song where she sort of makes that decision. So from in sort of musical theater storytelling ways, this is her I Want song. It's also, in a lot of ways, her I Am song. I Want song meaning when a character comes out and says, hey, this is what I'm trying to achieve in this moment or in this show, in this production. And the I Am song is obviously like, who am I? Because you're introducing a character to an audience. And certainly The Road Home is an entirely original story. It's not based on any book or movie or anything at all. It's entirely fictional, which is why I feel comfortable putting it out here on the internet, because there's nothing to steal. There's no idea to steal. So it's all here. So I needed to write a song for Carrie to sort of show who she is and to decide what she's going to do. And so I wrote a song called Crossroad, which is what we're going to be discussing today. I guess the simplest way to start would be to show you a little bit about how I began the song, how I created the song. So let's head over to the piano here, and I can show you just a little bit about the song musically. And it's actually very, very simple. It's actually mostly just two chords. Here's your one chord, and and then a 1/4, which has this sort of epic feeling to it, because you hear, I don't know, I always feel like those two chords together are pretty epic. So it sort of begins, we are arriving at a crossroad, and the car ain't slowing anytime soon. So that's the basic verse structure, and then we do a little minor 6. We are looking at a long ride home. So, and then we just go back to 1, and then back to the 1/4. It's really quite simple, and in fact, the chorus is also that. So if you're listening to the song, it's really quite simple. But I think the reason that I keep it that simple is because I want to sort of show the relentlessness of what's going on in her head. She's got this idea, she wants to accomplish this thing, and it stays in this sort of epic thing that's driving and driving and driving, and has a sense of inevitability to it, which I enjoy. So when you put it all together, and if I head over to the Pro Tools of it all, you can actually see how I have arranged it and recorded it in a MIDI fashion. So it's, and then I get a text right here because, you know what, I'm not really going to edit. So whatever happens, happens. So we start out, and the way I've arranged it, I wrote it on a piano. I write almost everything on a piano because that's what I play. That's what I'm used to. But it's a guitar-heavy score because it's a country rock, 1980 sort of a feel. So as we begin, everything is guitar bass, and so it's just bass and guitar. And then I'll show you how I'm layering things all together. But here's how the song starts. We are arriving at a crossroad, and the car ain't slowing anytime soon. We are looking at a long ride home. So that's the first half of the first verse. Very straightforward. And so you're wondering, hey, what are these things that we're seeing on the screen? What are these dots and lines? Well, these are actually the musical notation, which I do in Sibelius, sort of transcribed into MIDI files. And what MIDI files do are they're able to trigger the virtual instruments that I'm using to create these demos. So you're hearing this guitar, you're hearing the bass. Well, guess what? There's no guitarist, there's no bassist. It's actually a program called Kontakt and their professional suite of virtual instruments that are playing it. And so sort of like a player piano, these dots and lines have a bunch of different layers to them. So if we break into the bass part here, right, you're going to see dots and lines, just like I said. And so the lines going left to right are the duration of the note, and up, higher and lower, you see a keyboard here. That tells you what note it is supposed to be firing. And that's not the only thing that is put in the MIDI information, but that's the basic thing. And then you can determine how hard do you want to hit that note. So if we solo out this bass line, just so that you can hear it, and I start it, you're just seeing it play back like a player piano, these MIDI files. And so the bass line, again, very simple at this point in the song, because I'm trying to set that that cinematic, exciting feeling. So that's basically what you're seeing here. And then the guitar, it's the same thing, except I'm arranging it in chords. And so the program here, the Kontakt program, is able to create strumming patterns based on the chords. So I'm just telling it it's an F, right? And then it's an F over a B flat. And so it's able to okay, I know what chord I'm playing, I'm going to do that, and then I determine what the strumming pattern is. So if we take this, we build this up very slowly, and we solo the bass and the guitar. I'm actually going to solo the rhythm guitar first. So bass here, and we have the other guitar there, and I'm gonna add this sort of strumming feel to it. There is a chord there, but it's really almost percussion, and I'm trying to get that feel, get that vibe, right? And then we add the other guitar. Here's where you hear the chords that we're actually playing. And so what's great about a program like this is I'm able to layer as much as I want of anything. So at the end of the day, there are 8 different layers of guitar used in various ways throughout this. So the same deal moving forward. You see here drum set, right? Here's the drum set. And so I notate the drums in Sibelius, and the same way it works with the guitars and the bass, it's able to say, all right, this dot means a kick, this dot means a snare, and you're able to sort of build it out and notate it and have absolute control over it. So, and that's sort of what's cool about arranging this way, is not only does it play back what I put into Sibelius when I notate it and arrange it, I can also go in to the MIDI files here and change stuff. So like, oh, I want that note to be a little bit shorter, a little bit longer. Oh, I really wanted to be flat there. I can actually edit it right here in the MIDI editor, independent of the sheet music that I'm working on, which is really, really fun and really exciting. And if we scroll down here, there is a piano part, which I'm not actually using. But for the piano, it's kind of obvious if you just let the computer play the notations. So I actually go in and play the piano myself on the keyboard, and then and it saves as a MIDI file. And so it has all those little it's almost like if it's too perfect, you don't believe it. And so there's a believability to the imperfections in my piano playing here. But as I'm not a great pianist, I make a lot of mistakes. But here I'm able actually to fix them in post and change. And the other great thing about this, especially for a song that I don't know what key this is actually going to end up being once it's the actual singer playing the role of Carrie. So I don't really know what key it's going to be in, and that's what's great about MIDI. I can just transpose it right here, and I don't have to re-record anything. It's all set and easy to go. So if we continue with the arrangement here, we just came in with the drum fill into the chorus, which if we, just so you can hear it all in context. So here's what the chorus sounds like. Find our way. End of the first verse. I'm going to drum fill into the chorus. I'll build a new road. I'll build a new road. And we come out of the chorus into the next verse, right? So as I mentioned before, when I was back at the piano, right? It's that chorus is still just the same 2 chords. I'll build a new road. I'll build a new road. Super, super simple. And that's where, when you're working on an on a song that's like that, you need to really rely on your arrangements to keep things changing, to keep things developing, so your ear doesn't get bored of those 2 chords all over and over again. So if we go back to our Pro Tools here, well, we've been playing with these 2 guitars, the bass and the drums, and what's this? It's another guitar, but just for the chorus section. And so what am I going to do? I'm going to add a little bit of electric. We've been acoustic this whole time. Let's throw a little electric guitar. So here it is by itself. It's got a little distortion there. It's very simple, and it sounds weird all by itself, but once you put it in context, it's going to filter in and fill in a little bit of grunge to the chorus here. Like I played before, into the chorus. I'll build a new road. Quite simple. I'll build a new road. Little distortion. Okay, so now we're going to start the next verse. And we can't just do the same thing we did before, so I'm going to keep layering, right? So I'm going to add this next electric guitar, which is sort of like a little electric noodle over the top of it, which sounds like this if you isolate it. So it's kind of just a little noodle. It's not really designed to be some like thrashy guitar solo. It's just to give us a little bit extra energy. And it's got that sort of, it's got a little bit of reverb, a little bit of delay there. Again, trying to go for that epic cinematic feel. And so when you put it all together, you finish the chorus. So you hear it just in the background there.
Don't want me. They're afraid of who I want to represent. And they're waiting for me to break down.
And so, we've talked a lot about the music in this, right? And what I'm going for feel-wise there. We're also learning a lot about Carrie through the lyrics. And that how she is an incredibly optimistic person, a person who believes that you can accomplish great things, but also she's pragmatic. She understands that there are going to be some really difficult challenges running for political office in 1980 as a woman and as a black woman, and there's going to be a lot of people who are not on board with what she's trying to do. And so she's both optimistic and striving, but she's also a pragmatist and understands what she's about to face. And that's part of what we're telling with the story here. And so when we get, we're going to go through the chorus again. When we get to the bridge, we're going to see some of that fight that she's got, right? So she's got optimism, got pragmatism, but also a little bit of a fight to her, got an edge to her, and that's what we're going to show coming up in the bridge. But before we do that, remember how I keep wanting to layer things, right? So at the second half of the second verse, well, what if we throw some strings in there? So I'm going to throw in some violin, which sounds like this all by itself. It's, again, very simple. When you put that all together,
They build twists and turns to
it's just a little bit. It's just in one ear, expanding as we're going. But now, all right, so if you're looking at the screen here on Pro Tools, you're going to notice that, this line, the yellow one, isn't dots and lines. Well, I'll tell you what, because that's the recording of the vocals, right? And vocals can't be MIDI, obviously, so it's an actual wave file, an actual analog wave file that I'm recording right here on this microphone to do that. So if I solo that out, you can hear all by itself.
They throw roadblocks in our footsteps.
And so what you have here,
They build.
if you're really a nerd, we're going to see three different things that are processed on that, because you hear the echo, right? Well, that's reverb, to make it sound like you have the sound echoing back. And reverb is great, especially for vocals, because it's sort of the pasta sauce, and it covers up flaws. It sounds epic, and it sounds weird all by itself, but once it's all mixed together, reverb helps. There's also some compression there. What compression does is it takes the really quiet parts and the really loud parts and squeezes them a little bit. So the quiet parts are a little bit louder and the loud parts are a little bit quieter. And so it's a more consistent feel to the sound. And then I have an EQ, which takes out some of the higher and lower frequencies to enhance the voice specifically. It's really nerdy, really detailed stuff. But that's where you start getting that sound that all fits together. And then you'll notice, coming up here on this next chorus, there's a whole bunch of more of those. That's because I'm adding backup singers to it, because, why do a song if you're not going to have backup singers? So if we isolate that going into the next chorus, it's going to sound like this.
I'll build a new road.
And what is that? Again, apologies for not hiring other singers, because, I'm cheap and I work in the basement. That's just me duplicated over and over and over again. There's actually 5 of me singing at once in that particular moment. And for me, the way I like to get the sound that I do is I'll do 2 takes of each of the harmony parts, bounced right, bounced left. And that way it just feels a little bit full. There's tiny little variations. So, you want to make it as tight as you can, but you also don't want it to be like a computer. You want to be able to hear variations in different ideally different voices, but as is just me, different takes, different feels. And that makes it feel a little bit more like a chorus and not just, a dude in his basement recording it 1,000 times. So when we come into the second chorus all by itself, we're going to hear all of this sort of come together.
I'll build a new road. I'll build a new road.
And so why do I have other people join? Well, partly because it sounds cool, right? And if you're going to have an ensemble and a musical, you might as well use them, right? But it's more than that. From Carrie's point of view as the character, we learn more about her because we find out that, yes, she is able to get other people on board with what she's doing, to motivate, to be a leader, and people will gravitate to her and her impossible dream that she's trying to accomplish here. So as the song goes, storytelling wise, we're going to see her sort of go through some of the obstacles, try to get registered, try to get on the ballot, and come across different obstacles. And so in a musical theater song, as opposed to a pop song, there are frequently breaks in the middle of it where we have little scenes, little pieces of dialogue. So throughout the course of this song, we're actually going to see her go from having the idea to registering, getting people to sign up so she can get on the ballot, to going to the town clerks, to get herself on the ballot, to be rejected, to head to Raleigh, to do it officially, and then finish in an entirely different... So, weeks go by in the course of this song. But that's one of the great things about musical theater, and songs allow you to move the story along, even during the song, even not part of the lyrics. So that's sort of what's happening here. You'll also notice, another electric guitar joined our buddy here, because as we go into this chorus, I want even more. I want it to be bigger. So if we isolate these two electric guitars, remember we heard it in the first chorus, but now I have this other driving, and sort of there's a crescendo to it, and it's building. Again, it's hard to hear, in the finished product, but I think it adds to that element of excitement. So if we hear it again, you can listen to those guitars. Dun, 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 dun. So now is where we get to the bridge, right? And this is where we see the fight. We see the grit, and she realizes that she's going up against, institutional obstacles. We're going to learn here, very quickly. We're going to see a poster of her adversary, who, is an old white guy who has been in the office for generations. He's been in office for 36 years, and he's like an old Colonel Sanders dude, and, he's not going to be friendly to what she's trying to do or to her, and is part of the institutional obstacles that she's trying to overcome. So here is where we have, I mentioned, I'm really only working on 2 or 3 chords throughout this, where we start to build a little bit more complexity in the music. So I'm just going to play it for you, and, you'll hear... So in the background, you're going to hear some ahs, as opposed to singing lyrics.
And when you fight an institution,
so this is where she's starting to fight.
you are fighting with the man.
Referencing her opponent.
And when you start a revolution, you've got to
So we're
never
building.
quit. You've got to rise above. You've got to plant feet on the ground, hearts in the sky, and build a new road.
So just from the song structure here, right? It's very simple. It's verse, chorus, bridge, chorus. Classic song structure. But what I wanted to do here, I have the energy, I have the fight, and I'm gonna play it for you again so you can hear the build into that last chorus, right? As she talks about how you need to accomplish and what you have to do, what you have to fight, what you have to overcome. And you'll see, we have more guitars coming in for the bridge, a little more. So more distortion here as she gets into the fighting section, and it builds and it builds and it builds. And so, and you can see here, if you look at the drum part, you have a whole mess more dots, whole lot more complexity stuff. So this is where you can actually see visually. If you look right here, well, that's a drum fill, because you see pieces all coming together as we fill into the dropout here. So those are those pieces together. So as we go through the bridge, I'll play the end of that again, into the final chorus. Well, what's here? Even more backup vocals for the finale of the song, for the final choruses, for the final chorus. And this is where, you just start stacking the chord, right? And you start supporting more and more of the chord, and you try to make it as big and full as you can with only one single human voice, because it's just me. But once it's all together, you got that top note up there.
We'll build a new road.
So hopefully soon, someday, I'll have other singers to fill in that sound. But you want to, again, it's her big opening number. It's it's her big. I want the audience to come out of this number feeling charged, like we're with you. I'm excited. I can't wait to see you go on this journey. And if we're not feeling that at the end of the song, then there's something wrong structurally with what I'm doing. So here's how it all finishes.
You've got to rise above. You've got to plant feet on the ground, hearts in the sky, and build a new road. We'll build a new road.
So now it's not I'll build a new road, it's we'll build a new road.
Let's build a new road.
Small changes, but it's part of the storytelling.
We'll build a new road.
So that's it. So, in a lot of ways, it's quite a simple song, but hopefully it will be effective. So the last thing I'll just point out, and then I'll let you all move on with your day, is what's this? This is a cymbal roll. So this I do... I think mainly because the MIDI doesn't do it very well. And that is, like that whoosh on a cymbal that has a whoosh, that sort of exciting feel into it. One of the tricks that I do a lot in my demos is that I'll use one of those to go to sort of cover a transition musically, or to sort of help lift us into the chorus. And so you'll hear it here. So if you just listen for the whoosh, it sounds like this by itself, so you know what you're listening for. And so that's actually a recorded cymbal that I just have, and I just sort of keep it around and throw it in whenever I need to cover a transition. So here's what that sounds in context.
On the ground, hearts in the sky, and build a new road.
So it's very subtle, but I think it's exciting. I don't know, maybe I overuse it, maybe I overuse a lot of things, but that's just sort of how I am. That's how I write, that's what I like to listen to. So that's probably way more information than anyone would ever want to know about a song and the arrangement of it. Maybe in future videos I'll talk more about the notation itself and show you what I'm working on with Sibelius. If you enjoy this, so if you want to hear the whole song all together, once again, it is linked down below, and you can just hear the demo. It's just a demo, it's just me, but you can actually get a sense of the whole song all together. So I'd be really curious, for anybody watching this, this is the first in a series that might be just one. I don't know. Is this interesting? Is this informative? I hope so. But if not, let me know. You have any questions? Certainly, more importantly, hey, if you're a big producer or a big Broadway agent, my contact info is right there. Reach out. I'm here. Part of what I'm doing here is trying to sell the show. So by all means, reach out, like, subscribe. You can reach me in the contact info below directly. So anyway, we'll see you back here next time with another song here from The Road Home. Thank you for watching.